leads a magical drive.
It's just like, it's in them. It's hard to, put that into words. Like, that's not even coachable. They had said something about he did like a veggie meter, like where they check how much veggies is in your bloodstream, and they found all ice.
Oh my God, if that's not a sign C.J. Stroud's a Hall of Famer, I don't know what is. I wish one person would say that about me. C.J. Stroud is coming off the greatest single-game performance by a rookie QB in NFL history. In their insane back-and-forth victory over Tampa Bay, Stroud had a passer rating of 147.8, which is the highest ever by a rookie. He set a rookie record with 470 yards and became just the 6th player in history to throw for at least 450 yards and 5 touchdowns without an interception, and the youngest player to get 450. Oh yeah, and he lasered the game-winning TD with a pass to Tank Dell with just 6 seconds left on the clock, after apparently saying, "Give me a little bit of time and I'll make them pay." That's the ice he's talking about. He is cruising towards a unanimous Offensive Rookie of the Year award. He's dragged the Texans back into the playoff hunt and relevancy, and he's racking up insane numbers at the age of 22. Is C.J. Stroud the best rookie QB of all time? Well, is he at least on pace to be, and will he obtain that impossible to actually prove award? Today we find no wonder nobody says I have ice in my veins. Today we go balls deep into C.J. Stroud. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. What's Game Time? 2:25 usually for me here in the Mountain Time Zone. But Game Time is a ticketing app that makes it easier and faster for you to get seats at your favorite events at a moment's notice. It is the best place to get last-minute tickets for all of you last-minute decider of going to events people out there. Okay, I'm one too, which is why I love Game Time. Look, I almost never know when I'm gonna finish working from a day-to-day basis. So when Jess and I decide to go somewhere, it's a that day decision. And the easiest place to find tickets for, say, a Nuggets game is Game Time. Or, God help me, a Denver football playoff game. Now, Game Time features lowest price guarantees, event cancellation protection, and even job loss protection. Plus, you can see the view from your seat before you purchase, which is awesome. The app helps you save money with exclusive flash deals and even bigger deals for after an event starts. That's right, after the event starts. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code GOODSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create your account and redeem with code GOODSPORTS, GOODSPORTS, for $20 off. Link below, download the app, last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Oh, y'all laughed, when the Texans won their final game and gave up the #1 spot in the 2023 NFL Draft. Turns out that will possibly go down as the greatest thing to ever happen to the organization, and is a friendly reminder drafting a human QB is not an exact science. Now, it's hard to talk about C.J. Stroud as a draft prospect without talking about the history of Ohio State quarterbacks. And before Stroud, it wasn't a very illustrious QB tradition coming out of Columbus. Names like Heisman winner Troy Smith, Terrell Pryor, Braxton Miller, Cardale Jones, and the late Dwayne Haskins, and then finally Justin Fields. Really, the only Ohio State quarterback that had done anything in the NFL before this season was Joe Burrow, and Burrow transferred out before becoming the player he is today at LSU.
I went to school at Ohio State and I played football at LSU.
So when C.J. Stroud came along, it was way too easy to lump him in with the conveyor belt of mediocrity and assume that because he had the Buckeye marijuana leaves on his helmet, oh yeah, you got him now, he was going to flame out in the NFL. That his success in college was predicated on an incredible receiving core, a dominant line, and a strong running game. Any QB could look good throwing to 3 first-round picks at receiver. But what if Stroud was also good? What if two things can be true at the same time? What if quarterbacks are good when their skill players are good? Look at the Chiefs this year and that decline. Now, people started to come around on Stroud when he had to face his toughest battle of the season in the college football playoffs against the eventual back-to-back champion Georgia Bulldogs. They made Stroud uncomfortable. They took him off his spot, and Stroud responded every single time, showing us mobility, improvisation, yes, and an extra gear that he didn't have to reach for earlier in the season. Even in a losing effort, we got a preview of the type of QB he could be in the NFL, and it was just a matter of which team was going to buy in. The answer? Not the Chicago Bears and not the Carolina Panthers. At least not the people who had the final say in Carolina. It's been reported and whispered and hinted that Frank Reich's preference after trading up for the first overall pick was to take C.J. Stroud over Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. How do I know? Well, just look at the way he's looking at him here. That's the way John Madden used to look at Brett Favre. That's the way my wife used to look at me. Now all she sees is Patrick Dempsey.
The sexiest man alive.
Now, if we learn Frank Reich really did want Stroud, but David Tepper made him draft Bryce Young, and these two quarterbacks continue on their current trajectory, that's a big if, Tepper is going to morph into this.
I want me some glory hole.
Now, before the season started, I think everyone had limited expectations for C.J. Stroud and for Bryce Young and even Anthony Richardson, as the through line for all of those three guys was an underwhelming offensive roster of skill players around him. Stroud might actually be having the greatest rookie QB season because he's just simply doing the most with the least. Now, despite what he's doing at this juncture of the season, there was a point in time where Stroud looked maybe a touch overwhelmed, and it didn't help that he had to start his career in Baltimore against the Ravens, a team that might be the best in the AFC, if not the entire NFL this season. But even though he dropped the first two games of his career, Stroud in those games showed flashes, throwing for 242 yards in the loss to the Ravens and 384 in a Week 2 defeat against the Colts. You could see, even in the loss column, that Stroud had some gifts and that the insane accuracy and timing he had exhibited at Ohio State was now very clearly translating to the NFL. The oddity here being that he both lost to Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. Technically to Richardson in that Week 2 game, even though Richardson got hurt, but still, he gets credited with the win, Richardson. Stroud was doing some crazy shit that you rarely see in the NFL, like a 7-step drop to a corner post that he nailed in the middle of the field against an elite defense, which Ben Solak from The Ringer broke down here.
Look at his body when he throws this, and Woods is not broken yet. Dumb. But it was so fun because he's so aggressive.
Whoa. Can we not call Texans quarterbacks aggressive, please? Let's shy away from that. And it's worth pointing out that Stroud didn't walk into a win-now situation. The Texans have been talent depleted for the better part of 3 years thanks to Jack-Off Easter Bunny and Crazy Eyes. And even though they're starting to build a team with the assets recouped from the Deshaun Watson trade, this is a young team with a first-year head coach, one that's not getting enough credit, by the way, and an offensive coordinator in Bob Slowick, who is relatively unknown, although he was in San Francisco. So we should have known he would be great. You wouldn't look at a receiving core with Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Robert Woods and say that's a situation where a rookie is going to come in and rack up a bunch of yards. He was probably throwing to more talented guys in college, but he's made those receivers look good. It's also possible that they are just good too. And now that they have a guy like Stroud who can unlock their potential, but he didn't exactly inherit the greatest show on turf. That's the point. Dell was a third-round pick, Woods is 31 years old, and Collins had a previous career high in yards at 481. This year, he's on pace for over 1,300. I don't think that's a coincidence. You also have to give the Texans credit for pulling the trigger and signing Dalton Schultz in the offseason, giving Stroud a security blanket at tight end. Not that he needs a security blanket at this point, but Schultz already had 4 touchdowns through 8 games. Eventually, the wins started to come. as Stroud kept racking up gaudy numbers for a rookie, and the Texans, who won 3 games all last year, ended up taking 3 of 4 from weeks 3 through 6. Their only loss coming on a last-second field goal against the Falcons. One of the most remarkable parts of that tough early season stretch for the Texans was that Stroud was moving the ball at a remarkable clip while also taking extreme care of the football. It took him 191 passes to throw his first NFL interception, and guess what happened on that play? It was a first down because the Texans ripped the ball out and recovered the fumble. Even his interceptions are productive.
What do you think your greatest strengths as a manager?
Why don't I tell you what my greatest weaknesses are? I work too hard, I care too much, and sometimes I can be too invested in my job.
Oh shit, his weaknesses actually are strengths. His 14 TDs to 1 pick ratio matches Tom Brady. Not as a rookie. 2016 Super Bowl winning Tom Brady. Stroud was sacked 11 times in the first 2 games of the season, both losses, and then he proceeded to stay clean for the next 3 games despite dropping back a total of 95 times over that stretch. He's got mobility, and he can use it when he needs to, like on a late 2-point conversion against the Bucs. But he's comfortable in the pocket, way too comfortable for a rookie, and his legs are usually used to extend the play. Honestly, he's like a mix of Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes. Yeah, I said it. All that said, he hasn't been perfect. The low point of the season came in Carolina against the Panthers, the team that passed him up in spite of Frank Reich's wet dreams about him. Stroud and Bryce Young are always going to be compared to one another, like any quarterbacks that go 1 and 2 in the draft. And if this is anything like the Rams and Eagles, Bryce Young will be a Texan in like 6 or 7 years. Neither of them were particularly spectacular in their meeting, and Stroud had a season-low 140 passing yards in the loss, while Bryce Young led his team down the field for the game-winning kick. Young has the head-to-head, but there's really no comparison at the moment, and that couldn't have been more apparent than Week 9 when Stroud threw for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns, including the game winner with 6 ticks left on the clock. When that thriller wrapped up, Young went out and threw 3 interceptions in a resounding loss to the Colts, including a pair of pick sixes. But this video isn't about putting down Bryce Young. He's in a tough situation right now, and even though the Panthers and their fans were probably hitting themselves in the face with a frying pan watching C.J. Stroud look like the next coming of Peyton Manning against Tampa, we can't expect every rookie to come out and look like he's a top 5 passer right out the gate. Keep in mind, Carson Wentz, also the number 2 overall pick, looked a lot better than the number 1 pick, Jared Goff, early. Now Wentz is, well, he's on the Rams where Goff was. Goff has the Lions as a legit Super Bowl contender. A lot can happen in the NFL. So I think it's more helpful to look at Stroud's incredible rookie season with a little more historical context and compare him to some of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. Here are some of the best quarterback seasons of the last decade and change. Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Andrew Luck, and Cam Newton. You can put RG3 on that list too, but he was such a freak as a runner that it's hard to compare him to Stroud. Through their first 8 games, only Herbert had more passing touchdowns, albeit in a stretch where his team lost 7 of those 8 games, mostly in horrific last-second Chargers fashion. Dak, whose non-interception streak Stroud broke, was the most comparable in terms of ball security. Prescott threw 2 picks in his first 8 games, while Stroud, again, just 1 with about 200 more yards through the air. Cam Newton and Andrew Luck were the first 2 rookies to break 4,000 passing yards. Luck had 4,400, while Newton threw for 4,100 a season earlier. Accounting for a 16-game schedule, Stroud would be on pace for over 4,500 yards, which would give him the new rookie record that Luck still owns 11 years later. The only thing that I think can actually stop C.J. Stroud are the officials. BenchwarmerBrew.com, F the Reps Coffee, and the new tumblers. Check it. Stroud is also on pace for 28 touchdowns in 16 games, which would put him behind Herbert, who did have 31 in 2020, and tied with Baker Mayfield. That's right, Baker fucking Mayfield, who did that in just 14 games. A feat I still think gets completely overlooked. I mean, come on, do you remember how bad the Browns were before Baker got there? And they forsake him for Deshaun Watson. Now, the on-pace game projection's always a tricky one. No one knows if Stroud's gonna keep this up, and I doubt he finishes the season with just 2 picks. But that otherworldly accuracy and touch isn't going to magically disappear over the next 9 games, barring injury. What Stroud has really done is establish an insanely high floor. It's wild to think that a rookie who's top 7 in passing yards and tied for 8th in passing touchdowns is actually going to get better. But that's what 22-year-old quarterbacks generally do. They get better. The game slows down. They iron out their mechanics. They get a better grasp of the playbook. It's like the first time you have a drink in the morning. Making it through the entire day is tough, but after a while, you're half a bottle in and you don't even feel buzzed by the time Judge Judy comes on. That's exactly what it's like. I don't have a problem. You do. By the end of the season, I genuinely think we're going to look back and say this was the best rookie quarterback season of all time. A part of that might just be surpassing expectations and also seeing an across-the-board downtick in quarterback production this year. Plus, Richardson got hurt, Bryce Young's not playing well, Will Levis just started playing. All of those things make C.J. Stroud look a little bit better as well. The combination, though, of Stroud's raw numbers, his talent, supporting cast, and competitiveness on a team that hasn't sniffed the playoffs since 2019 is staggering. I feel like I am watching a young Peyton Manning without the growing pains he went through throwing 28 interceptions in 1998. Stroud again has 1 pick, 7 fewer than Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, 4 fewer than Goff at this point. He just skipped that part and he's gradually morphing into an elite passer that's going to hopefully be around for a very long time. The Texans went through a lot of shit. Some of it deserved during the Deshaun Watson saga, and they are now emerging on the other side like Andy Dufresne, finally nabbing their franchise quarterback, or at least one that's actually okay to root for. And I think it's also worth ending the video on this note. Stroud is doing all of this despite a lot of personal adversity. CJ's dad has been incarcerated since he was 13 years old as a part of California's 3-strike rule, which devastated his family financially during his teenage years.
I've been through a lot in my life, and I feel like that's what the league is about. It's about adversity, getting over that, getting over those failures and those hard times, and that's something that I'm accustomed to. That's no stranger to me.
He's had to grow as a quarterback without new cleats, contact lenses, or a private coach, something a lot of NFL quarterbacks benefited from in their early years. He just watched YouTube clips of Drew Brees trying to learn to play the position. He had to work late hours in high school. He and his family were on the cusp of eviction, and he didn't receive a scholarship offer from Ryan Day at Ohio State until right before his senior season in high school. Since then, he used his NIL money to buy his mom a 4-bedroom house, and after he was picked 2nd overall, he received a signing bonus of $23 million. After throwing 5 touchdowns and setting the single-game rookie passing yards record, Stroud took the podium and used that platform to talk not only about a conversation with his father, but about the criminal justice system in general.
I got to talk to my dad a little bit this week, man, and I didn't want to make this public, man, but our criminal justice system is right, and it's something that I need to probably be a little more vocal about, because what he's going through is not right.
This is a dude who looks unshakable because life has thrown him a bunch of shit that's way more intense than reading a defense and identifying a blitz, which is why he's mentally more prepared for the quarterback position than anyone I think we've seen since Joe Burrow or Andrew Luck. And Luck was unshakable because, well, he had a retirement party basically the day he was drafted. Why'd you retire, Luck? Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. CJ Stroud's balls deep. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel. We're trying to get to 1 million. I just got to 500,000. I need another 500,000 is what I'm saying.